All right, so I think the best place to start, Corey, is just with a introduction. Who are you, and how did you kind of just get into this AI space?
Sure. Yeah, the 2 minute backstory is spent my whole career in marketing, the last 10 years, bounced around at a few different startups as their first marketing hire. In COVID, I got laid off, and then I started
Mm,
doing a lot of consulting, freelancing, just trying to figure anything and everything out. I started this newsletter called Swipe Files, started sharing everything I was learning about marketing and doing growth for startups. And then in 2023, two things happened within a month of each other. One was I was getting so much demand for the consulting side of things. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should start an agency and actually build like a team around me and kind of scale this beyond what I can just do myself.
mm.
And then the next month, I left for a 2 week coding boot camp where I just hopped on a plane, went to some guy's house and stayed there for 2 weeks with 9 other strangers. And then he just taught us to code in his garage. And
Wow.
it was there that I learned, or that I found Cursor for the first time. And I was like
Okay.
one of the OG vibe coding button mashers, just accept all, accept all, accept all. So I've been a marketer, and then I got technical and like just technical enough again in 2023, like before a lot of this started to really take
Yeah.
off. And so I feel like I have a good foundation on like, okay, I can understand both sides. I know how this works. And so I was using Cursor and then Cloud Code for marketing.
Mm,
And I had been through a couple of different iterations of workflows and like, how does this work? But when Anthropic came out with the skills protocol, it immediately clicked for me. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be really, really useful. Let me take all of my agency SOPs, turn those into skills. Let me take my ebooks, turn those into skills. Let me take these, course materials, slide decks, webinars, things, turn those into skills. And I was selfishly just kind of curious, like what other people were doing and what their skills would
mm.
look like. So I open sourced it, and 44,000 GitHub stars later, the
Yeah.
rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to get into that. The skill wave came out, and not too many people. I guess maybe. Yeah, you saw it. I guess. But it was kind of like just, oh wow, it's something different, right? Like you can basically like just have a skill that you've been learning for X amount of years. You can basically just put it on the internet, and you can kind of just have this repeatable thing happen. And then I think you were one of the first ones because there's some big names that have used your GitHub repo. Like
Yeah.
they'll do YouTube content, and I'm like, okay, we're like, where are they getting this from? And then they'll mention your name. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. But before we hop into kind of that, what originally got you into marketing? Like, what was kind of
I mean,
the thing that kicked
entrepreneurship.
off?
So
Okay.
I've known since I was 19 that I wanted to
Mm,
be an entrepreneur, a business owner. I just didn't know what or when or how. And I knew that I needed to get some like life experience, go work at some jobs, go work at like companies, see how they operate, and then I would figure that out. And it's been a really windy journey, as I think it is for a lot of entrepreneurs. But I just knew, hey, I want to start a business. And originally, because I was like reading all these books and these kind of like old school magazines, and it was like,
sure.
yeah, CEOs need to learn the language of business, which is finance and accounting. So I went to school for an accounting degree, but then I ended up transferring, and they didn't have an accounting degree, and they only had a marketing degree. It was like the next closest
Mm,
thing. So I was like, okay, like marketing's close enough. But then it clicked for me once I started getting into it. Like, oh wait, all the podcasts I listen to, all the books I read about, like it's all just about how to grow businesses. And so marketing felt actually very natural for just my skill set, what I was interested in. At the end of the day, you don't have a business unless you have customers. So how do you get customers, right? It's
yeah.
marketing and sales. I'm I tell people like I'm a introverted salesperson. I think that that's like what a marketer is they just want to sell stuff, but not like face to face, one on one. And so marketing's just been a really great fit.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Mm, very cool. Okay. So talk to me about the skills, the GitHub. So originally, like, where did this idea come from? Why did you do it? And did you think it would have the effect that it did have?
So the reason why I knew like, okay, I need to go all in on skills right away was because I had seen the previous iterations of skills before it was skills. Because when, again, I was at this coding boot camp, I started to save all these prompts and I would put it in like my text snippet manager. I would have like a note that would have all these different prompts in there. And then when I was using Cursor, Cursor came out with Cursor rules, which is this first iteration of like having it available in your IDE or your coding agent. And then the agent would kind of know, okay, when the user talks about fixing a bug, use the bug cursor rules. Or when the agent talks about, or when the user asks about UI, use the UI cursor rules that you want it to follow. And these were really basic things. Like I was building in Ruby on Rails. And so it was like, here's information about my model, my database. I use Tailwind, not Bootstrap, like really basic things like that. And then that kind of like, it's not the cursor rules died, but they just had their moment and then like fizzled a little bit. And I think we were all left with being like, okay, there's kind of this void that needs to be filled here with how do we have a protocol that is this repeatable, easy to update, ubiquitous way to give the AI and these agents more and better instructions that are contextual to what you're working on. And obviously Anthropic was already thinking about this and working on this forever. Right. So when they launched that in January, again, that's when the moment clicked and I was like, oh yeah, this is cursor rules, what it essentially should have always been this entire time. And I was already using Claude Code for marketing and like all the marketing things I was doing, because at the end of the day, it's just making the same API pings that I would in the chat, but now it has a bunch of other tools under the hood. And so like, especially having skills in Claude Code, I was like, there's no way I'm ever going back to right. to like the Claude chat or ChatGPT chat, or like, just why would I do that to myself? And, but to answer your question earlier, like, no, I did not expect it to take off. I was like, maybe there's another technical marketer out there that would be down to open a PR and like share a skill that he made, and we can like kind of crowdsource this repo together. Because like I just wanted to see what other marketers were doing. Like I didn't have it all figured out myself. But it turns out that I was like kind of the only one doing that kind of stuff, at least for like a second there. Yeah. And so people were like, wow, this is incredible. We should use it. A little bit of serendipity with timing as well, because then this guy, Vercel, Andrew Q, he launched this new website called skills.sh, because he recognized the same thing, like, oh, skills are going to be a huge part of how we interface with AI. Right. And so he started scraping like open source skill repos, and there weren't that many. I think there was like 50 or something at the time. And so now all of a sudden skills.sh starts getting millions of views. They're all driving back to my repo. It's this like self-fulfilling prophecy of like the more people that use it, the higher it climbs in the ranks, then the more like kind of PR it gets for it essentially. And so, I mean, it still grows by like 1,000 stars or maybe like 500 stars a week, something like that.
That's crazy. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, talk about timing, but you saw the pattern early on and you were in it for long enough to know, hey, like these two things are going to converge at some point.
Yeah.
And then just the perfect timing of it all. Do you still use those skills today? Have you adjusted anything? What looks a little different, would you say?
Still use them every single day, and most of the changes that are made are based off of my own personal experience of just drinking my own champagne, dog fooding, so to speak, my own skills. And so let's see, when I first started, it was like the 1.0 version. We went from like 1.0 to 1.8 or something like that. And then I had to make this like bigger update because Anthropic then came out with like the plugin protocol for skills and for other tools. And then there was this fight between like, there's the Claude.md versus agents.md, and then there's the .claude versus .agents. And so I had to like build support for both of those. So then I made the 2.0 version. And now we're on, I think the latest release version is going to be like 2.10.0, something like that. So, and every 2.x versions is going to be like a new skill. I think when it started, it had 22 skills. Now we're up to 49.
Yeah. So it's like, and again too, it's so weird because like you hear, obviously Hormozy like was like, hey, you should give everything away for free. Right. So obviously a lot of industries started doing that. And then the AI thing happens, and then people are contemplating, should I still give everything away for free? Because then you can just basically duplicate it, right? And so you kind of like, I don't know, you just kind of like spearheaded the, yeah, and you're like, dude, here's everything for free, and it still seemed to work. And so everyone's still contemplating like, hey, should we still give away stuff for free? But it looks like it still works. But just for people who haven't downloaded that repo, your repo, or know really about it, walk through just like just the skills involved, because you said there's so many. What exactly does this repo contain?
Sure. Yeah, at the head of it, there's a skill called product marketing. Product marketing helps you to define your audience, ICP, differentiators, the market and competitors, brand voice. Like they're really core, fundamental product marketing types of things. And then that sits at the kind of the top of the umbrella. Everything else under it, there's a few different buckets between like there's skills for SEO and content, there's skills for conversion rate optimization, skills for content and copywriting, skills for like managing paid ads and measurement, analytics. So there's all these kind of like big buckets. But actually at the top of each one of the skills is an instruction to the agent to go and check the product marketing skill file that it creates. Because what I found personally was I was like, okay, I have this copywriting skill. Every time that I invoke it, it's like, great, I would love to help you with copy. Tell me about your audience, your product, your market. I'm like, oh gosh, I can't keep answering these same questions over and over and over again. And so the skills are meant to work with each other and reference each other. I think for a lot of people too, like people ask me, hey, like what is a skill? A skill is a markdown file plus a folder of other references, templates, and scripts that make the markdown file more actionable. So at the end of the day, yeah, it's just a bunch of text. It's just instructions to the agent. Like, sorry, yes, it's a long prompt. Sorry to disappoint you. But that's the magical part about it, is that it's just text. It's just instructions to the agent. It's super, super lightweight and flexible and scalable. So, I mean, anything you want to do from A/B testing to AI SEO, I'm looking at the list here in front of me, attribution, co-marketing, email marketing, free tools. I made one the other day that was like a marketing council. So if you want to know what Hormozy would think about your campaign, you know, kind of tries to simulate what he would think about it.
Lovely.
My goal is to cover all the bases, and that's why there's 49, and there's probably going to be 50 plus by the end of the year. Anything that a marketer would do day to day is going to be covered here in a skill. And these are my skills. These are my opinionated way of doing things and the things that I'm crowdsourcing. Because I'm not like, if you want to make your own version, go for it. You can make your own, you can open source it, you can keep it to yourself, whatever. It's just a starting point for people.
Yeah, okay. So let me ask you this then. Where do you think the disconnect would be? So for instance, let's just say I download your repo and I'm like, okay, well, essentially I have some part of Corey's brain, right? Where do you think now in the AI world, like the disconnect is between getting this or getting similar results?
Right. Now, there are two big disconnects that I hear pretty often. One is on the technical side of things. So as soon as someone hears like terminal, GitHub, API key, they're like, you lost me. I'm out of here.
Right,
this is too much. The way that I like to explain it is the terminal is the back door to your computer. So a browser is just one tool on your computer that you can use. That's what we've all been used to using and doing all of our work off of because of the internet and because of SaaS, like things in the cloud, you access it through the browser. But if you want an AI to have full access to all the tools on your computer that it can have at its disposal, you want it to use the terminal because the terminal is literally a like computer designed interface of sorts, right? There's nothing to be scared about the terminal. And in fact, the terminal is really what drives, or it's maybe more like the engine for each of the agentic coding platforms like Cloud Code, Codex, Cursor, or Grokbot now. You know, any one of these, Conductor, right? They're all, when they're doing these processes and they're coding, what they're doing is they're using the terminal. They're doing terminal commands. So to me, like, the terminal is not scary. The terminal is just like a kind of cranky, curmudgeonly old man, but he's actually really nice. You just have to like know his little quirks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the second part of this is with like GitHub. People are like, GitHub's for developers. What are you talking about?
Mm.
I was just talking to one of my marketers on my team the other day, and she was like, oh, I'm really scared to push anything to GitHub on a client's repo because I don't want to mess anything up. I don't want to be the reason that, something breaks or introduce like a bug. And I was like, that's one, completely valid, but two, so ironic because that's exactly what GitHub is designed to prevent. In fact, it's the safest place in the world to push something because the whole thing is it's Git, it's version control. There's all these checks and balances and rules and things that help you prevent a mistake, right? Anything can be rolled back, anything can be reversed. There's a paper trail for anything and everything. So again, GitHub is not something to be scared of either. And then we have API keys and or CLIs, MCPs, SDKs. Those are all different versions of the same thing, which is if the terminal is a backdoor to your computer, then your API, CLI, MCP, SDK is like the backdoor to an app. And so instead of me logging in and being like, okay, my email is this and my password is that, I can use one API key as my unique identifier for my agent to log in and access this data for me. That's magical. Like marketing forever has been like, okay, I have 17 different tools I log into every day and I got to switch over here and do this and copy paste over there. Now it's like, just give Claude all of your API keys and have it do it for you. And so people can get over those three hurdles on like the technical side of things. I think that then they can bridge the gap in that disconnect. The other disconnect though, that I think is a little bit more meta and I don't know what to tell people is when they just don't want to take the time to actually read what's in the skill. It's so funny because on social media all the time, you can go through and look at like, I have social posts pretty much every day about the skills. And there's almost at least one per day that's like, how does this work? Oh, you have a copywriting skill. How does it work? I'm like, go read it. Like it's there. There's no, it's literally open source. Couldn't be any more transparent if you're asking that question of how it works. But a lot of people don't want to take the time or effort to actually go and look at it, like read how it works, to read the skill file, to try to understand what it makes. So it's new. Gotcha. I get it. I understand it. But those are where people usually drop off.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but even with myself, sometimes I find myself getting lazy, right? Like, do you see people, like, they call it atrophy, right, in the brain, just because it's almost like the calculator, right? Do you see that a little bit, where people are starting to get a little lazy, just because these tools provide everything?
Yes, but I also feel like human beings are just lazy in general. I'm lazy. I've always been lazy. We're all a little bit lazy or have our different flavors of lazy. I don't really like that cop out too much about AI, about like, oh, it's making me think less. It's like, no, you're just not taking advantage of how much easier it makes you for you to tackle something harder. You know what I mean? Like you need to graduate. You need to like move a level up and now work on these types of problems and these types of things that the AI is not going to be able to. You can't like completely outsource your thinking to.
Yeah.
It is a lot like the calculator because you're like, if I walked in or if I saw my CFO, I don't have a CFO, but if I saw my accountant like manually adding things up on paper for my taxes, I'd be like, what are you doing? Use the calculator. Jeez Louise. Like I want your brain on like tax strategy and like, should I be spending money on these things, not like doing the actual work itself? And so I think people need to level up in the types of problems that they're trying to solve and how they're using AI. Number two, though, also is when people talk about AI slop, like, what about human slop? AI slop is just replicating what humans do. And like, we've been creating slop forever. So like, yeah, stop making slop. Sorry, but if you have bad taste or if you have no opinions, no expertise, nothing, you're going to make slop. So, but if you're using AI and you're a subject matter expert or you have some opinions about the world or you have some life experience that tells you how things should or shouldn't work, then there's no way you're going to make any slop. And so it's like I'm trying to get to the root cause and not just the symptom of like, why are people getting lazy? Like, why are people producing such bad things with AI? Like, that's not the AI's fault. That's the human's fault.
Yeah, no, well said. That's what I thought too. Like, human slop has been a thing since the internet came on, right? It's just Now it's maybe a bit more in your face, and you're like, okay, there's common patterns I'm seeing here. But even if you look at kind of the YouTube landscape right now, it all seems the same. And
Oh
sure,
yeah.
maybe they're using AI, but it's just, I don't know, it's a unique time where like a lot of copycats, just because maybe AI does help with that. But human slop, sometimes I do prefer AI slop over human slop, just because it's a little better. So, it is what it is. But when it comes to starting out, so obviously you've been in this for a little while, what would you basically just give some advice for a beginner? Like maybe they're a marketer like yourself, or they have like this a bit of expertise, a bit of a skill. Would it just be to jump in? Would it be able to conquer those three disconnects you mentioned?
hmm
What would be your kind of just general advice for someone?
So I have this framework that I've been working on like how to increase your own AI adoption.
Mm.
There's three parts to it. Number one is to skillify. So take something that you're doing manually that's rote, repetitive, that's a part of your daily job, turn it into a skill. I'll get back to that in a second. Once you have a skill, then what you want to do is toolify it. So now instead of you being like looping in AI, it's like an AI in the loop, you want to turn it into human in the loop, where now
Mm.
I'm overseeing the agent doing things in my tools. I'm not being like the bottleneck, copy and pasting things between my tools, right? And then once you have that down, now how do you loopify all this? So not only how do you kind of put things on a schedule or make this on a repeated like automation, but also how do you feed data back into the AI to make the skill better and the tool access better and to just make the whole process better. Whereas this virtuous cycle where it's self-healing, self-improving workflows. So, but forget Toolify and Loopify here for a second. Let's just start with Skillify because that is step one if you were to start. And it's very, very simple. Like, what is the thing that, for one, you've been thinking about hiring someone to do, that you've been thinking about delegating to a VA, that you've been thinking about turning into an automation of some sort, or that you do so often that you dread doing it? Turn that into a skill. And it's so easy now. Again, like the tools are ridiculous. Both Claude and Codex have these like record and replay types of functions where it'll literally watch your screen. All you have to do is do the thing that you want to delegate one time, and then now AI can do it for you and turn it into a skill that is repeatable across any other agent that you use in the future. So yeah, it's very simple advice to just start with one. Particularly start with the things that you don't want to do, right? Because the whole point of this as well, I think, with working with AI is stop doing the things you don't want to do or that an agent is better at so that you can do the things that you're better at AI or that you want to do.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I can even see it with myself. You can delegate that, just the non-high leverage tasks, right? And you're like, just get that off my plate. Historically, you're at to hire for it, or if you're not at a place where you do have the funding to hire for it, you're like, you have to hire again, like I don't know, a freelancer or whatever. And you're like, it could be better. It's not where I want it just yet. AI is that perfect outlet for it. And it's quality, like it's quality, depending what you give it. But it's quality stuff if you put the time into that. You mentioned a lot of tools so far. What would be like your tool stack right now, or like your daily driver? What's the tech stack
Mm-hmm.
looking like?
Yeah, so my kind of daily driver for coding, I'll just say, is a terminal client called Solo. I actually don't think this matters a lot. You can use Solo, you can use Warp. My buddy just made another app called Clinch. There's even just like the native terminal client on your Mac that comes installed.
Mm.
If you're on PC, it's called like PowerShell or something. Again, originally when I started doing this stuff back like, I don't know, this time last year, I was like, oh, the terminal is the only place where I can do X, Y, and Z, right? Now that's not true anymore. Like I think that most people probably should and could do 99% of the things that they need to do out of the Claude desktop app in code mode.
Mm.
It's like chat and code. That's basically running the terminal, but then it also has the cloud access and the really easy MCP connectors and integrations and things like that. It's just a better UI and interface
Yeah.
than your regular terminal. So you need a coding agent. I use Cloud Code most of the time. I use Codex as my backup. I also think that Cursor is a really great tool. I have my design team is on Conductor, so that also like I don't have a really strong opinion about. Obviously, I use GitHub pretty religiously, and that's where everything is stored. And then there's like a lot of other extensions, we might call them, for all these tools, where that's where we get into API keys, MCPs, SDKs, CLIs, so on and so forth. That's really going to more depend on your tool stack. One of the things that I'm working on right now on my new startup is called Magister. We have an MCP. It basically, you can use it in the web as well, but one of the big points is like, hey, you're using Claude Code every day, but giving Claude access to your 17 different marketing tools and then like knowing how to use those tools and effectively do that is really difficult. So the Magister MCP allows you to make all these really easy one-click integrations. It has a bunch of things ready out of the box, like keyword research, AI visibility, so on and so forth. But it's still within your daily driver coding agent, Cloud Code, Codex, Cursor, so on and so forth. So yeah, those are like the fundamentals, I would say, for like tool stack.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, do like the family models from Codex or OpenAI from Anthropic, do you find yourself using them differently with different tasks?
Yeah, and it's mainly just depending on usage limits.
Oh, okay.
So we all had a great time with Fable when it was free and unlimited, and those were the good old days. I now reserve Fable mainly just for troubleshooting bugs and for planning new like big features or initiatives.
Okay.
And then I'll have a daily driver model like Opus 4.8 or even Sonnet for some really basic things. On the OpenAI side of things, they also have a bunch of really great models. Actually, their latest one is of this recording with the Sol and Luna, and I think maybe there's a third one, but like Sol and Luna are really good. We use Luna as our default in Magister right now because it's so cheap, but basically has the same speed and brain power as like an Opus 4.8.
Yeah.
The models are incredible. And like that was one of our bets early on when I'm kind of seeing like where the market is going is like we're getting pretty close to as close as you can get with AGI, definitely by the end of the year. And so I'm not even worried about the models or which one I'm using for which task. Like I think that that's going to be very definitively commoditized at some point soon in the future. And the model won't really even make it that big of a difference because they're all going to be so good. So yeah, I mean, I probably would use Fable for every single thing that I do, but I have the usage limits now. And so I don't, and I just try to reserve it. I had this tweet go kind of viral the other day. I don't know if you saw it, but it was me taking a screenshot, and on my like $200 a month subscription, the API usage costs equivalent for Claude was like $8,500.
Right.
People were like, oh, but that's like not the cost of inference, and using all these big words. I'm like, I don't care. All I care is I'm getting a really good deal right now. And I'm hoping that deal sticks around.
We all do. We're all hoping that. I know they're all like a lot of these. They're all trying to like IPO in the next few months. It sounds like we're all hoping the same thing because if that funding stops, yeah, we're getting a hefty discount.
Right.
To use these tools, and I think a lot of us probably human, right? You get kind of complacent and stuff, but you're like, oh, these models suck, or it's like sometimes if you kind of step back, you're like, yo, chill, man. Like these things are freaking fantastic.
Yeah, there's still like super intelligence. We're so spoiled. I find myself now like tapping my finger or my foot, like waiting for it to be in, and I'm like, oh. It took 9 seconds to generate this landing page. Like, God, it's taking forever.
Yeah.
Like, hold on a second.
Yep.
That would have taken 9 days like a year ago.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast we adapt. You mentioned kind of the future. Where do you see marketing going?
I see marketing going a lot. Everything old is new again, right? And so, have you seen Mad Men, the TV series?
Yeah.
Okay. I just watched it for the first time like a couple of months ago, and it was a really funny time to be watching it. Just like, I think especially originally when it was filmed, this was like 2000s to 2010s, like really peak digital marketing, right? And the contrast even between really peak digital marketing and then like print advertising was super contrasted.
Right.
And honestly, I feel like there's going to be the same amount of contrast from the digital marketing 2010s era to this AI driven era now, maybe like 2025 and beyond, I'll
Yeah.
just say. And the reason is that like the medium has completely changed. The playbooks are all being reinvented. Um, and I think the skill sets required are way different. I think really to be successful as a marketer in the 2010s, what you had to be good at was budget management and using tools. Like that was the whole game. That was it. You didn't really need to be a very good copywriter, designer. Everything was pretty mediocre. There was a lot of like platform arbitrage between Google and SEO, and then Meta and ads, and like all these kind of budding social media platforms and places on the internet to get really cheap and good clicks.
Yep.
Those days are gone. Those days are over. Everything's really, really competitive now. But using tools is really, really easy if you can master some basics like this of like using the terminal and GitHub and API keys. And so where does that leave us? What does a marketer do? What is like the skills to bring to the table? Well, basically it goes back to how things were in the Mad Men era, where like they weren't using tools back then. They were using like the copywriters weren't even writing the copy. They were writing it on paper and then they would hand it off to their typist, who would then like punch it up onto a real piece of paper to go and send to the editorial team, either for the magazines or the print shops or whatever it was. So I think skills like copywriting, creative direction, like brand strategy, product marketing, these are the things that are going to be really, really important. It's almost even true like today. It's like almost completely true with a platform like Meta, for example, where you don't have to tweak all the knobs and bells and whistles of the ad platform to get profitable ads. You just need to create a crap ton of ads, and then the Andromeda algorithm is going to go and find the perfect customer for you, and whether you can afford them or not is a different question, but just make a ton of ads. That's all that you have to do. So whoever is the best at making ads the fastest wins. And I think you can take that across any of these other mediums or platforms in marketing, whether it's Google and SEO, AEO, and all the ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, so on and so forth. Take things like video. It really is like the best creative, the best content wins.
Yeah. It all kind of like the way I look at it, it's like it all kind of converges where the sense where it's like no one kind of has the upper hand when it comes to the tools, right? Because it's like, we're all using kind of the same tools. So then it's like, okay, well, what is kind of that, where's the leverage coming from? It's like, the stuff you've been building prior to AI, right?
Yeah.
Or stuff like that. And
And personally, I'm excited about that because I think that there's been a lot of really crappy marketing that people take credit for, or they say that works, or that's kind of this playbook that works, just because it was like they executed just good enough and they were early, or they were, they were able to afford to spend a little bit more than their competitor, or whatever the case might be. I'm looking forward to this kind of scenario where everything reaches the logical end conclusion. Like back in the Mad Men days, you didn't have everybody was competing for the same real estate of like newspaper ads, TV ads, some like billboard or subway ads potentially, but like 90% of it was like magazines and newspapers. And like that's awesome, because if there's 100 marketers all fighting over the same ad slot, it's going to produce really, really good ads and really good marketing. That's what we saw, right? Like I have a whole collection. I have a stack of magazines somewhere around here of like old Life magazine ads.
Nice.
Because they're just beautiful pieces of print. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that it'll be a good and a fun time to be a marketer.
Sure. Yeah, even like, funny enough, like even I think Gary Vee kind of, like, he kind of started the narrative where it's like everything's going back to analog, as you mentioned. But it's like now you're actually starting to see the analog, like the old, like you're gonna put up your Game Boy, or like the actual, like the visual static of like the analog era is now starting to become like more prominent. And I think too, like the feeling of nostalgia, it's like you can't beat it. And I think now with AI, and I think eventually you're just gonna get so jaded by it a little bit, where you're like, I will pay anything to feel like that again. And that's when you're gonna have those beautiful designs, or like part of me wants to start. I used to, like, for copywriting, like I guess everybody did it, but you just write the grades right by hand on like paper and stuff.
Yeah.
And part of me just wants to go back to that because I'm like, man, like this stuff, I don't know, there's something there that like it's hard to get away from, right? Like it's so embedded where you're like, you're human. It's like I just want to, whatever. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting time nonetheless when this all happens. And I think if you're obviously committed to AI slop, that's that's your choice or whatever. That's fine. But I think the ones who really think like, okay, I have the leverage now to just broadcast everywhere. If I just step back, I kind of learn some skills or just do things differently, just like contrast, just be a little contrarian or a little different. Like, when everyone's the same, just a little bit of taste, a little bit of spice, man, goes a very long way.
Yeah. Yeah. There's one other thing that I'm observing that I think will change the way that a lot of marketers do things. And it goes for product too, as well, where everyone wants to be luxury and premium now. Because there's so many choices. Like one of the only ways to differentiate as a product is to be the top end, best quality, highest price, or kind of best value, and really position yourself as like the number one choice, this like aspirational type of brand. And guess what? That takes a lot of marketing, and it takes really, really good marketing to pull off selling something more premium. And I've seen this in software where it's like everything's either becoming like free or it's like mid-market pricing. It's really like eating the middle.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh, I can just vibe code a, whatever to do this thing that I don't want to pay $9 a month for. Okay, like my server infrastructure, I probably can't vibe code that, so I'm happy to pay the $100 a month or whatever it ends up being for my app. And so same thing for physical products too, where people are like, yeah, I don't want to buy some like janky speaker for my desk. I want like the best audiophile hi-fi thing here, because if I'm going to invest in it, I might as well get something good. And how do you make sure that your product is that brand that pops up?
Yeah, for sure. Well said. Kind of piggybacking off of that, like you saw, I guess, like the drop shipping era, right? As soon as that came onto the scene, it was like you had access to, let's just call it, you had access to the same a Supreme shirt, right? Obviously not, but you could basically just print that and it'd be at your doorstep in, let's call it 2 weeks or whatever. I think we will start to see that with like apps or whatever, like the drop shipping era of apps or the drop shipping era of software for that matter. I don't drop ship an app and then, you can take it to market or whatever. But on the same token as well, I used to work for a company and basically we tried to agentify the ad process. So you just put in like a URL and then it basically just spits out your image, right? Or whatever, your ad. But for the people who've actually built some stuff, you start to realize, like even yourself, you're like, there's a lot more to this than just kind of vibe coding, right? Like everyone makes vibe coding sound so easy. Even Alex Becker, I think he just had a video where he's like, you're not going to vibe code like a CRM. It's like, dude, just pay the $97 to be on HubSpot. It's like there's so many other higher leverage tasks and they do it so much better than your vibe coding thing on the side you got going on. So yeah, I'm interested to see the marketing side of things. I'm interested to see the product side of things. And especially I think right now we haven't cracked hardware, right? So hardware is still, we haven't cracked it just yet. When that gets cracked, you'll have robots everywhere. You'll have like it's going to be insane. The stuff you're going to be able to build and the leverage with the tools, and then hopefully you can just put on your skill or whatever, is going to be crazy.
Yeah, it will be a very, very interesting time. Looking forward to it. I also think that to your point about e-com, I was just talking about this on another podcast this morning, actually, where like software is having that same kind of drop shipping accessibility kind of era. When we see it with like the App Store, I think it's in particular because Apple's tracking this stuff. Like the number of apps being published to the App Store is like tripled in the last year or something like that. The only difference though, and it's kind of a sad reality, is that there is no super arbitrage with cheap Facebook ad clicks like there was back in the e-com days where, cool, I'm drop shipping a Supreme t-shirt and all I have to do is have like a half decent ad and then put it up on Facebook and I'll just get customers. That is not the reality for software. It is absolutely brutal. It's really, really hard. I mean, the H1 of my agency's website, conversionfactory.co, is distribution is the only moat left. We help you build it. Like, it's a moat that you have to build. It's not just something that you inherently is there. You're just accessible.
Yeah.
People would have exploited that a long, long time ago. It's similar and it's different
Yeah. Oh,
in
for
a few ways.
100%. I think the building aspect of things obviously is very easy, but then yeah, you get stuck being like, well, wait a minute, no one's coming to buy my thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the whole distribution thing, I've always thought like I don't know how it would get cracked. It's an interesting game where I don't know if you can crack it. I don't know if you were to crack it, it wouldn't have the same effect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and anything that gets like all these, when we had the era of the growth hacks, it was always short lived, right? It
Yeah.
was like, oh, hey, here's this little, it's literally a hack. It's just something that is temporary. This little thing that I can exploit, I can arbitrage, I can take advantage of for a second. And then once that dries up, then I'm going to move on and try to find the next hack. I got tired of that a long, long time ago. I'm really more after the sustainable stuff, building brand, building awareness, having like a really, really tight funnel. Again, distribution's the only moat left. We hope you build that moat. And I think that's kind of an important aspect of just how people have to think about this. Now, the marketing skills exist to lower the bar, like to the barrier to entry, to make this easier, so that more people have better access to information and tools and things they need to market their business. But that doesn't make it easier per se. It just gives you some more tools to work with.
Yeah. Regarding moats, obviously moats is a huge conversation. So obviously you're a big fan of distribution. Likewise, I think it's up there, and it's like, yeah, well, that hasn't been solved just yet. What else would you maybe suggest moat wise, or is it just we haven't really seen what this turns out to be?
Other moats, well, for one, there's like the whole idea of the seven powers, right? Which is these business advantages and like major categories, which I think is really, really good to study up on and like very relevant for today. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what all of them are, but the ones I have top of mind for me are anything that is proprietary data is incredibly, incredibly valuable now. What was I just looking at? I was looking at some news article report about AI companies wanting to buy like the meeting transcripts of corporations, or it was like, I can't even remember. It was something super obscure, you know? It was like, what are the things that are hard to train AI on? That becomes a really valuable commodity that people want to buy, and or it becomes something super valuable that becomes hard to replicate if someone were to go vibe code your thing. It's like, oh no, but mine is informed by this unique data set, or I'm sharing the unique data out of my platform, which makes my platform more valuable for it to use because I have it, and it's the self-fulfilling prophecy. So data, super, super important. I guess along the same lines of distribution and marketing is just brand and design. A lot of people, again, are okay with shipping AI slop. That's totally okay for them. I'm not saying that everything I ever make is like the most beautiful thing in the world, or that it's a super, super unique brand. Anything that has legs long term, though, will need to have tip-top design and really good brand just to be memorable. Like to literally just remember, oh yeah, that brand exists and there's something unique about them, and they seemed like along the lines to the earlier thought of things moving to become more premium and more luxury. Brand is one of the biggest factors to making that happen. Hey, cool. You want to go get bigger companies, bigger accounts, bigger customers, more customers. You need a really strong brand. Those are the two top of mind as far as like moats go. Obviously, there's a bunch of other ones, and there's things like network effects and other things like that. But as far as for this conversation, those are the two that I would think about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think distribution is definitely up there, brand obviously, and then to some degree, I guess a bit of a like tangibles, right? So like collectibles. Obviously, you see a lot of people going in that direction now. That the stuff you can touch, that to your point, right? So now they're trying to get the data of like books, right? Obviously, there's that. They're ripping up the books and putting the info into the AI models, right? Because they don't have that. They didn't go about training the models with that type of data. So that stuff, I think that stuff going back to the whole analog thing, right? Where I think things will come back. We'll see a massive swing. I think just people again will get super jaded, and they're like, I just want to read a good book or whatever, right?
Right, right. There's one more part of this too, where I think I don't know if it's like a moat necessarily, but it does give you a little bit of an edge. If we look at other commoditized industries, let's just say like coffee or like grocery shopping, what do all of those stores have in common? They all have a loyalty program because they know that the switching costs are zero. There is no loyalty. So they have to like manufacture that loyalty somehow by offering perks, discounts, other kinds of benefits, even things that are like kind of members only, right? But think about like a coffee shop. Well, yeah, if I'm thinking about going to Starbucks versus this boutique one, maybe I'll choose the boutique one if I know that I'm going to get one more star, one more punch card in my thing, and then I'm going to get a free drink. Or I always shop at Sprouts, for example. I probably would have kept shopping there, but then they made this like loyalty program, and now I'm like, I only shop at Sprouts.
Right, right.
Because I want to rack up those points.
Yeah.
This is a bit of an obscure example, but we've been thinking about this in my agency, where we just came out with a new pricing model and offer. It's not like the end all be all, but it's one of the options where we actually decrease the price that we charge you over time the longer that you're with us as an incentive to stay and to keep going. And I think the same could be applied to software. We're like, oh yeah, okay, maybe the switching costs are zero, but the price that you pay is an advantage and is different if you're loyal to us. Okay, so now I'm going to stick with Figma instead of Adobe Photoshop, because otherwise if I switch, I'm going to be paying $50 a month more. Examples like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think retention mechanisms will definitely, again, when everything kind of just is all the same, it's like, yeah, what's holding you here compared to the other? And when it came to classic like SaaS, right? The switching costs were just a pain, right? So now it's like, well, to go to, I don't know, Salesforce to, let's just call it HubSpot or whatever. It's like, this is a bit of a pain. But now it's going to be like, well, I can literally just hop over. There's going to be something, right? So the retention mechanism, I don't know if that's through gamification or whatever the case may be. But yeah, loyalty hopefully is, because you even see with the models, right? No one's loyal. Like,
yeah, not at all.
And yeah, so it's like, how are they incentivizing us or whatever? Sure they'll reset the token or whatever, the 4-hour window.
One more time. They're gonna have to think about this stuff. Yeah.
So it's interesting, but yeah, those are definitely some moats. Lastly, we'll end here. So obviously you have an agency. Have you seen, when it comes to pricing, right? Because historically it'd be like, okay, obviously the skill, we're going to price that in. The labor, we're going to price that in, and maybe some other factors. Has that changed? Or maybe are your customers not necessarily in tune to all this stuff? Or
no, I would say it's even more important, and it's even more of a factor where people are like, hey, yeah, so if I'm going to delegate and hire somebody, I want to hire the most skilled, most expert person that I can. It's the exact same thing in choosing a product, right? They're like,
right,
hey, yeah, so if I'm going to go with an agency, I want to go with the one that has the most expertise because the execution is cheap and easy. We have a lot more clients now that are purely on a basically fractional CMO at advisory basis. A lot of our sales conversations now are based around like, how AI pilled are you? What ideas do you have? How much can you take off of a plate from a strategy perspective? It's also just easier to do, right? As soon as a team has a little bit of chops with AI and they're doing marketing stuff, they don't need a 10-person team to do a lot. They need like a 1 to 3-person team. But what they don't always have is experience, expertise, opinions, insights on what's working for other companies. Yeah. That was a question that we literally got today on a sales call earlier was, hey, so you guys work with a lot of clients, you take a lot of calls. What are some of the insights and patterns that you see across all of them? That's the stuff that we want to know so we can do that. Well, that's our proprietary data.
Exactly. Going back to the data. Yeah, for sure. The insight, right? 100%, it's key. Because again, if I can build anything, but I go in the wrong direction, I'm going to go 5 miles that way and then I got to come all the way back. So you got to know where the insight is at, or at least where to point these tools at. Has your overhead decreased, increased, hiring more? Are you like, hey, I don't need a big team anymore?
No, hiring's been pretty much the same for about the past year. Our AI usage and token costs have definitely increased, but we're not token maxing or it's nothing exponential necessarily.
Right.
There's definitely, a pretty hefty like software bill for a lot of things that we're just trying, testing out, using. But yeah, I mean, in the future and what we're thinking about is like, look, we probably don't need to grow the team again. Like as AI gets better, as we get better at using AI, we should be able to take on more and more with the same amount of people resources and time. And so our goal is definitely to keep things as lean as possible. And I think that most other people are thinking the same way too.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about the agency model, eh? Lastly, for anyone starting an agency, any few recommendations, tips, tricks?
Oh yeah, if you're starting an agency, this is true, I think for services, for product, for content, like you either got to be super, super broad, like, hey, I'm the all-in-one X for these types of companies, these types of businesses, or I'm like hyper specialized. So either like be super vertical or super horizontal. Anything in between gets really muddy. So we call ourselves like a growth marketing agency, for example. That's like a wide enough bucket and collection of services that we can offer that everybody that comes to us is like, yeah, this is the thing that we need you guys to do for us. But like if you're just going to be a marketing agency for anybody, like good luck. Pick a market and pick probably something to specialize in. That's really the only way you're going to be able to compete. And again, this goes for products too. It really is like whether you're building software, hardware, like people need a really clear story so that when they hear it, they realize, oh yeah, like this is the thing that I've been looking for people like me. It's kind of a Seth Godin thing, right? It's like for people like us, do things like this. And that's what you want to click with people is these are the people that do the thing that I'm looking for. Yeah. Like positioning is really, really key. One of the things I think we do pretty well at our agency, but when there's a lot more offers, a lot more price points, a lot more products, services, people out there, a lot more content, people need to be able to find the signal in the noise. And that signal is your positioning. It's your unique point of view. It's, oh, these are the things we do for these types of people. Anything less than that is just going to sound like noise. It's going to get lost, right? It's going to be hard for someone to really pick up and say, okay, yeah, you're the guy for me. So I'm trying to plant my flag right now in like AI marketing. When you think of Corey Haines, you think of AI marketing. I'm not going to try to go do like, yeah, I build products. I've built like 15 SaaS. I have a couple that I bootstrap that like do, revenue. But I'm not going to make that my story. I'm going to make my story AI marketing.
Yeah, I believe what is it called? Own the niche, right? Own the word or whatever. Once that word comes up, right, they'll know of Corey or whatever. Corey, where can we find you?
My personal site, Corey.co, has all the links to every one of my businesses, projects, links to different places to interact with me. I'm most active on Twitter at Corey Haines Co. I'm also on LinkedIn. My newsletter at swipefiles.com. And then, of course, the marketing skills are marketing-skills.com.
Lovely. Okay. And those links will be down below as well.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay. Thank you very much, Corey.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.